What's your name and who are you?
Shit, man. Brandon Jenkins, AKA Jinx. Yeah, that's me and who I am. That was good.
Yeah, that's a good one, right? New York, New York. So nice, they named it twice. They say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. But the thing is, if you can make it here, you don't really need to try to make it anywhere else. The people, the energy, the tension, it molds you. As iron sharpens iron, one person from the city sharpens another. New York made me. The same way it made so many before me, and it'll make so many after me. This is Homegrown. All right, so for the longest since I've known you, your Twitter handle has been DZA Jinx. So how would you identify with being homegrown?
Damn, man, it's funny. Like, I remember making that Twitter handle because I seen some cat had some shit. He had a handle that had like his city he had tri-state something. I thought that was hard, and so I went with the alliteration, and I was like DZA Jinx, because I'm extremely proud of Jersey. I always thought it was cool to wear that out in front of people. Like anytime I went somewhere else, I used to go to school in Atlanta, and like you made sure you wore Jersey out there. You made sure people knew. Also, not to confuse us with New Yorkers, you know.
Yo, it's good that you said that because it segues into something I want to say. So, when we out of town, Jersey or New York, say we in LA.
Yeah.
I'll be like, where you from? You'd be like, Jersey. I'll be like, oh, you from New York. That's just me, because I'm like, Jersey and New York is different. The cultures are different. But out of town, we from New York.
I told people, here's how I look at it. I'll say this way. New York's like LA, and then Jersey's like the Bay Area. You know what I mean? To me, it's like we got our own thing. You can see a lot of like similarities in like the language and stuff like that, but we're gonna do it slightly differently. But when I go places often, I make sure people know it's Jersey. And if it's in New York, they're like, oh, what up, that's cool. But if it's like someone from like Tennessee or some shit, like, oh, that's like New York. I'm like, you nigga, no. It's like having your sibling can say whatever they want to you. But you, the stranger, nah, you can't tell me. It's like, you never even been to New York. You don't know shit.
See, that's Jersey pride right there. So that's why this DZA Jinx, so that makes sense. Talk a little bit about growing up in Jersey.
I'll say this, Jersey's like similar to New York in the sense that there's a lot of energy in a small amount of space, right? So you grow up in an extremely diverse community, even if you've never left your neighborhood. So you see a lot, you know what I mean? You see how black folk live, you see how white folk live, you see how like every spectrum under the sun, and you end up absorbing all those energies, whether it's slang, dress code, musical interests. So I grew up really, really diverse without seeing much, you know? Like I got a chance to like, man, like I remember like I went to Hanukkah in 2nd grade, you know what I mean?
That's
like
crazy.
Yeah, Hanukkah's lit.
So you had Jewish friends in 2nd grade?
Yeah, because you have every friend in 2nd grade because we're all in the same space. You end up learning a lot. You have a sensitivity for other people's cultures too, because you peep them at an age where you're really innocent. You know what I mean? So like the biases when you start to develop biases as you get older, that piece in you from your childhood pulls you back of like, nah, I know people. But yeah, Jersey's also like, what I liked about it too is it's the East Coast, man. So you could always jump off and go to New York City and learn something and see something new in a faster paced energy. And you really understood very quickly, like, yo, we don't move that quick. Like, we move faster than the rest of the country, but if you're comparing it to New York City's like, it's like highway miles. Like we might be at 60, but y'all might move at 75. And you gotta understand like, that 75 is meant for 75. Go do 75 in a 60 and see what happens. It don't work that way, you know? So I feel like Jersey helps us understand our place in all of this, you know?
Right. I want to hone in on something that you said. You went to Hanukkah in the 2nd grade.
Yeah.
Right, so you know, I could relate because my mom, growing up, worked for a Jewish lady, and I was around a lot of Jewish people at the time too, so I understood what the significance of challah bread was.
Yeah,
you understand?
Latkes.
And latkes, and Hanukkah, and Sabbath, and so on and so forth. And you know, like, I know you said your mom, your sister, they're all teachers.
Everybody's in
education. So what was school like for you, and like crossing into journalism? When did hip hop become a love for you?
I can remember moments as a kid, like things that popped into my consciousness, but it was kind of always there. Like, we had Hot 97. So I thought that was hip hop. I didn't know that there were other versions of it. I didn't know there was a Southern version. I didn't know there was a Big Boys radio. I had no clue. And then when hip hop started making its way into television, it was Hot 97. It was Angie and Flex.
Right.
So like, as a kid, my parents were pretty cool about that stuff. A lot of the music I had heard was through like my sister. She's a little bit older. So she was listening to R&B, but you know, it's like Lauryn Hill, which is hip hop. You know, it was TLC. You got like, you know, Phife Dawg on the intro.
Right.
Puff ran the whole shit. So like Biggie, all this stuff felt like what I was seeing, and also their landscape. A lot of the stuff too is also East Coast. So it looks like what I had seen, you know? I was into rock and shit too though.
Really?
But I always, like I remember I was telling the story the other day. I remember my mom took us to the store. She's like, you can get 1 CD each. I forget my sister got. She got something that was right up her alley, probably like Brandy or something. I came back with a CD and it was Limp Bizkit. My mom was like,
Fred Durst.
and she just looked at the cover. It was just like what's going on at school? Like, you know, like you don't want to get something else, you know, like what is this? But she let me get it. But even still, that was close to hip hop in a way. And he had figured out the hip hop brand. He had the, you know.
Yeah, he had the look.
He had a Yankee cap on too. You know, like it felt very much like home.
Yeah. What was your perception of NYC growing up? Like, what were you attracted to at a young age?
Some of my first New York experiences weren't actually with the city of New York. It was with New Yorkers. So like, kids would come from New York. A lot of times they'd come from Brooklyn and they'd move to the suburbs. And they'd come out to the burbs and they were just dressing ahead of us. Like, they was wearing the North Faces crazy. They was wearing the snorkels before we had snorkels. They was wearing the Timberland, we call them swamps, but the Timberland field boots. They had this style about them that they all looked like how the rappers looked. So we would drift towards their style really quickly. And so New Yorker, they always had this style about them. And everybody, I'm trying to think of an example. Like if I go to the barbershop where I'm from in Somerset, New Jersey, you kind of see everybody sees you. In New York, everyone's headed somewhere else. Yeah. So it's kind of like this city where no one's really concerned with you. And that changes like your perception of like kind of how much you matter, you know? Like, not that you don't matter, just like everyone's doing their own thing, I should do my own thing.
Was getting to the city a plan that you ever had in mind?
Yeah, no. Like, I went to school in Atlanta, so the first way I ever came back to the city, I was telling you in there, it was Steve Stouter offered me an internship. And I was like, all right, I want to go wherever this is at. Like, I can't say it was like a real big destination until I realized the city had all the shit I was looking for. It had the culture, it had the jobs. I remember one of my rules was like, I want to go to work and dress how I dress right now at work. That was one of my rules. In New York, you looked like you could do that. And it wasn't just in journalism or content. It's like everyone.
Period.
Yeah, everyone kind of dressed like that. And the whole city looked like they were like in high school for the day. And I thought that shit was cool. And then I was here for a little bit, and then I had a sales job out in Pennsylvania. And I was not dressing the way I wanted to dress every day. You know, I was like in Walmarts every day, like moving food around. And that was when the city really became my purpose. It was like, I gotta get back. I gotta get back to the city.
Would you say there's an underdog mentality coming from Jersey that makes you work harder than not being from the boroughs?
100%. I mean, yo, what's crazy is New Yorkers, before we get to Jersey, New Yorkers somehow catch both energies. Like, they always feel like they're underdogs, but we're like, y'all are New Yorkers. But that is like a driving motor here, right? Like, be a nigga doing well, he's like, man, I feel like niggas hating on me. You're like, what? like, all right, you know? And niggas in Jersey, you know what it was? It's that train ride. I used to come to New York and I would see the same parties. I saw a lot of cats party themselves out the game. And for us, the party always had to stop because you had to get on a train. And that train ride, you know, depending on where you at, it could be an hour. You know, it might be a 2-hour commute, or you got to get in the car. It means you can't even be too fucked up because you got to get back. And so for Jersey, it's all about, can I do well enough to cross the bridge and not have to go back home? You know, so that is that underdog mentality to me that I noticed about myself and my Jersey friends. I started looking in the industry and looking around, being like, yo, this whole office is like from New Jersey. And then I was like, oh, the New Yorkers, like, they live the lifestyle. You can't front, but like, we'll probably be the ones like documenting and telling part of that story too, because we don't want to go back home. But I also watch people kind of take themselves out the game because, you know, at the end, they can just go back to mom's crib. I was trying to get out. So I knew it cost money to get out, you know, and I had to do stuff to get the money.
That's real shit. I know in the black community, jobs in the creative field aren't seen as lucrative. Like how our family wants to support us on our journey. How did your family support you in your journey?
These are great questions. These are great questions. Yo, it's funny because like that internship I was talking about, and I was living in Hoboken at the time because it was the shortest route. My man's like, he went to Stevens, which is a school up there, and I was staying on his couch. And, you know, I could get to the city. It was like, yo, how little money can I spend for the day? So I'd spend for the PATH train. When I got to 34th Street, I'd walk the rest of the way because I was like, oh, the subway is like an extra, it's a swipe that I don't have. Yo, that was like how I went off of it, but they didn't understand any of this, right? Like, I still have relatives that are like, oh, you make commercials for a living. And I'm like probably sort of in some way, right? Like I'm selling something, but like they didn't really get it because they were like, yo, get a good job. So when I left to go to PA, that was a good job to them. This was like, yo, what do you, like, you do what? You about to work somewhere? I was like, yeah, I'm an intern. And they're like, for free? They're like, you work for money. What do you mean? Like, they didn't really understand it. Now they really get it. They get it because they've seen results of it. They see how like...
They see the residuals.
Yeah, and they see how intent I am about it, you know? But their support was there, but they were trying to make sure I was safe. And I was like, nah, I gotta like roll the dice a little bit. And it's all right.
Right, life is based on rolling the dice because, you know, for me, I can't say my parents always believed in my vision because they couldn't see what I saw for myself. They saw me doing something different. You know, like when, like I'm not proud of it, but dropping out of school was something that broke my mother's heart because it was more so like, this is not what
she can't see
this is not what I seen for you. Like, you know, like my whole lineage of growing up was all private school, Catholic school, and then public school was where I kind of drifted off. Where my drift was actually finding Smoke DZA and who.
But she's like, who is
and
that?
She is
what
like,
do you mean?
what are you doing? I don't rap. Go to work. She was more content with me working at Dwayne Reed. Right.
Because it was something she could see.
Because it was something she could see and she knows I'm gonna get paid at this time. Where it wasn't like I needed to bring any money into her, but it was money for myself and knowing that I was working. Not even working towards something, but just working, period. So after I got fired from there, which wasn't too long, this is like fucking 16, 17, being able to get a job, hook up from a friend. I started to get into the music thing and they didn't believe until I made some money.
Yo, that's a big sign for a lot of us, right? It's like that first check you get back. And then not even the first one, like, they're gonna pay you again,
right?
You know? And I get it now. I used to really kind of turn my nose up at it, but I get it because it costs money to live on Earth. You know what I mean? Like, this shit is like, they're thinking about a life which you gotta live when they're not here, or who you gonna look out for, or who you got dependent on you. And so, I'm glad that level, exactly the same, like, that parents have that care and caution, because I know that I'm gonna need that at some point. And it's actually helped me do this pretty responsibly, right? Because like I said, it could have came here and thought it was just the parties, right? Thought it was just Santos, and all I would have was Santos, you know? Like,
when you're back in Jersey, what's the thing you miss the most about Brooklyn?
There's an energy in the air in New York City that, like, I noticed its absence at the top of COVID, and that's when you really peeped it, where it was like, it's just based off the people, man. The amount like of energy that's volleying around. You know, we could all be sitting here in a room and it still is there. It just does not exist in where I live at in New Jersey in real time, where you got to kind of go to a destination to get to it, right? You might have to go like outside to the block. Brooklyn, but really all of New York is the block. So like it's always there, it's always being traded. You go to the corner store, it's there. You leave your apartment, it's there. You run down to get your mail, it's there. You get on the subway, you get in the Uber, whatever, it's just there. It's sort of like in the air, you know? It's like a radio frequency. And it's like that energy in a lunchroom. Like when something funny's going on, you can kind of like feel it, or niggas about to fight, you can kind of feel that. I don't know what you call that, energy, but New York has that, and you feel it. For me, you don't feel its absence because it takes a transition to Jersey, right? So like, you get on the train, it's kind of still there, but it lessens as you go, and then you pop up in New Brunswick, Somerset, and you're like, oh, it's gone, you know? You get in the car, you drive to wherever you go, you open the door, and it's gone. And you realize like it's something that exists in New York City. specifically.
Would you say growing up outside of the 5 boroughs gives you an advantage from a perspective POV?
Yeah. Cause I don't have the like, I mean, I love where I'm from, but I don't have the like, that blindness to other like, the benefits and joys of other places, you know? And I don't know if all New Yorkers feel that way, but I remember going down south and New Yorkers would be like, yo, I'm from New York, I'm from New York, I'm from New York. And then I remember people be like, yo, you're from New York? I'm like, there's a difference. We move similar, we might dress similar, but I won't tell you. I just be where I'm from, you know? I think it's given me an advantage. And again, it's that hustle I talked about of like, I would have loved to already had an address in New York City, but I didn't. So the advantage was a disadvantage where I had to like work to get it. And I've never really stopped working, you know? Having less, I think, made it, that's my advantage. Having less in New York City. And also too, everybody's fucking cool, man. Like, yo, that shit's real. Like, yo, you go to the spot, man, and like some kid, it's like people got their whole stories. They done grew up together and shifted boroughs. Like Santos, you walk in there and everyone knows each other and you don't know nobody, you know? And you realize that like everybody's cool. You know what I mean? Like the nigga who sells bud is the coolest nigga who's ever sold weed in his life, right? This nigga over here is like the coolest nigga who pops bottles. She's like the coolest shorty, and they all have their own real estate. Where I'm from, there'd be like there's a clear hierarchy. New York is much more democratized, right? So like you could be cool and do your own thing. And when you walk in a room where everyone is basically like the captain of the basketball team, like you gotta kind of like figure that out, you know? These are great questions.
Come on, thank you. It's the Kush God Smoke DZA with my family, DZA Jinx, and you tuned in to Homegrown on Tidal, really.